After years of one-party rule in Myanmar, a change is coming. Aung San Suu Kyi is free, and the country is opening up to the West. Scenes like this would have been impossible just a couple of years ago. These guys would have been going straight to jail.
China, it is very dangerous. America and Europe is not danger. It is our friend.
They are taking all their raw materials out of the country. That's simple.
On this week's In Focus, we find out whether Myanmar's notoriously repressive government is really changing and why foreign governments are queuing up to get inside. I came to Myanmar to investigate the violence between Rakhine Buddhists and Rohingya Muslims in the west of the country. What I found was the systematic ethnic cleansing of the Rohingya population and allegations that the Burmese government were behind the violence. Nearly 60,000 Muslims used to live in this area, but as you can see, it is now a wasteland. First of all burnt down, and then the military came to clear the rest away. Nothing remains. What happens to your family? So how many people died?
46 people.
I was one of the few foreign journalists covering the story, which continues to develop into a humanitarian disaster. The hatred for the Rohingyas was shocking.
If UK would like to sympathize them, Rohingyas, please, we would like to send all of them to your country, okay? They are not our national, no our ethnic groups. Please don't say it like this, very angry. There are no ethnics.
Although tens of thousands of Rohingyas are now homeless and scores have been killed, most of the world's governments have stayed silent. Few media organizations have even reported the story. It's the anniversary of the 8888 uprisings. On the 8th of the 8th, 1988, hundreds of thousands of Myanmar citizens, students, doctors, housewives and monks took to the streets to challenge the one-party rule which had existed since 1962. The uprising was suppressed. Thousands were killed. Every year, activists try to commemorate the 1988 uprisings, but every year there is trouble with the police, often with preemptive arrests, stopping the event even taking place. But this year, as you can see, it is going ahead, and there are no security forces even in sight, except of course for the odd undercover special branch officer keeping a tab on who is here. I'm reliably informed that the guy in the check shirt sitting behind me with the mobile phone is definitely one of them. Recently, as you may have heard, Myanmar has changed. They have had elections. Aung San Suu Kyi is free. Activists are allowed to hold political events. Protests, so long as you get a permit from the government, are allowed.
Compared to 24 years ago and compared to last year commemoration, and we feel the change. We feel the change, but that change may not be as concrete as we can, we expect. If you ask me what changes, I cannot say, because those changes are not very tangible and not very concrete as yet. But I feel the change.
In 2007, protests started again. Thousands were arrested, scores were killed. But their scale was far short of those of 1988, and far smaller than many of the uprisings recently seen in the Middle East, leading many to question why the government has since bowed to some protester demands. But let's be honest, the 8888 movement didn't win those freedoms. Those freedoms were given to you by the military government, right?
Eventually, the government let us, enjoy some freedom. But those freedom, it's a sort of given, yes.
In recent by-elections this year, there were 46 seats up for grabs. Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy party contested 44 of them. They won 43. The NLD offices here in Yangon have now become a tourist attraction. There's all sorts of memorabilia you can buy here, mainly emblazoned with the image of Aung San Suu Kyi. There's a nice brooch here, some posters, umbrellas, or perhaps you'd like to celebrate the new Burma by drinking coffee every morning with the lady herself. The office now bustles with activity, free from harassment from the authorities. Did you enjoy working in the Burmese army?
Before I entered the army, I decided myself as a patriotic soldier. And then getting in army service as a lieutenant, second lieutenant, I got a lot of experience about that day situation under highly pressure of a dictatorship. So I worry and I get depression upon our people because many difference between the higher rank of military officer and the lower level of our situation is very different. And then our people very poor, very depressed because of military dictatorship is too bad. So I don't like. I'm not happy in the army. Yeah. So I tried myself to be changing in my mindset, and then I'm trying to get dismissed from army.
Nai Moi Zin was arrested and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment under Article 33A. He was caught writing criticism of the army in his emails. He was released recently after 10 months under a general amnesty. And what happened to you in jail?
Jail, there are no human rights and prisoner rights. Very bad, because prison officer have bad bureaucrat mind. So they are always trying to press upon all prisoners. They have no law, no human right inside prison. So many people. But we have a chance because we are political prisoner, and then also on the other hand, I am a military ex-service man, so they cannot touch me. But many people still in prison got a lot of trouble.
Under the Myanmar constitution, the military are still guaranteed 25% of the seats. Although the NLD are now allowed to run, many in Myanmar are still under no illusion as to who holds the power. Is there a lot of corruption in the army?
A lot of money, but not for everybody in military service. Higher level, some rank of higher level military generals take corruption. They got a lot of wealth.
I've heard if you want to be a millionaire in Burma,
more than
you go to the army, you become a general.
Yes, if I got the general's role, I can be millionaire.
How do they get that money?
Taking corruption and no law, yeah.
But what hasn't changed? I know there's probably a lot of Secret Service, special branch guys hanging around this conference
and
today.
then and the militarism has not yet been changed because although the military is now playing a very important role in the country.
The military still rules Burma, right?
Of course.
Now, just behind me on the other side of the road, there's a tea shop. I'm sure you can see that. But there's also a secret room, or a supposedly secret room, with a small rectangular hole in it. Now, it's through that hole that for years the government's special branch has been spying on the NLD. Hardly very subtle. In downtown Yangon, I had a meeting with a journalist. I was keen to find out how reporters worked in a country that has effectively been under a dictatorship for 50 years. Does your work get censored?
Yeah, a lot of my work was censored. Even, they don't bring my articles, the whole article even censored.
Even now?
Even now, yes.
That's a bit odd, isn't it? I mean, so what happens? You write an article,
Yeah.
you send it to who? How do they censor it?
They have to put forward to the censor board.
So
Because
every-
the state court has censor board.
Every article you send to the paper, or do you send to the censor?
No, I send to the paper.
Send to the paper, and they
The
get it, they get it
editor,
censored.
they got printed and then sent to the censor board, and they said you can print that. So,
How much do they change in the article? Do they just cross things out, or what?
yeah, they just cross, and then you have to put it away.
Do they send
But
it back to you to make the
No,
change?
no, they don't. They never give back to me.
Do they change? Do they change the words?
No, they don't
They
change
just
it.
cross
They
some
just
out.
cross out some. And then,
I wanted to know what kind of issues the government thought best not to discuss.
they are buying the rice, the seeds to grow in this country. It's a hybrid one. So you have to buy it from Chinese government, or the merchant, and then you grow it here. Next year, you have to buy again. You can grow it, that seed again. So this is a hybrid one. That's a GN food. I know that it's GN food is not good for the Burmese people because we got very good kind of rice. So if I write it on the newspaper about that, Ministry of Agriculture won't let that happen. So
He told me that he no longer checks how much of his work is actually censored. You don't actually know what goes through or not?
No, I don't know. I don't want to know actually
Why
because
don't you
I want to write freely. As
But-
well.
But maybe in your head you're writing
Yeah, yeah.
freely.
Yeah,
But you're not, though, are you? Censorship seems very normal here, accepted.
accept that as a normal in
Yeah,
this country.
yeah.
And because of lots of people will have to go to the jail, and then you can't do it anything. If you publish a paper, they just shut it down.
He then takes me next door to meet his family. His daughter works in publishing. His son is an artist. It seems very strange. You're sending your articles to the government, effectively, letting them cross off whatever they want. Is that not strange?
Absolutely strange, you know. But I think a lot of Burmese people we get used to it already.
Is any of your art censored?
Yes, it was. I used to paint, and I make an exhibition in Rangoon. Some of the paintings were censored.
Why? What was on them?
That one?
This kind of thing.
What was on
Yeah,
them?
this was. It's about the university.
Yeah.
It's a Rangoon University.
So was that censored?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
I got the feeling that he wasn't going to tell me the true meaning behind his work, but I suspected it might have something to do with the woman with no eyes and nettles around her face, perhaps standing outside the university gates. They don't tell you either. Can you ask them? Can you complain? Is there a complaints office that you can ask? Why is my painting being censored?
During that time, I don't dare to complain. Seriously, yeah, there was probably 15 years ago. Yeah, there was a date in there. Yeah.
So now, do you think that would be censored?
I don't really care actually. You know, it's even though they censor it, I will show it in somewhere, in Facebook or whatever. Right?
But do you think it would be censored now?
They might. Huh? Maybe I don't know. You know, I'm not quite sure. Huh?
These things have things changed at all then?
I don't know yet. We have to try it.
Can you go and try and exhibit that somewhere and see if they censor it? Despite the military government's continuing hold over the country, Western leaders have been queuing up to visit. British Prime Minister David Cameron has been there, praising the release of Aung San Suu Kyi. And then there was Hillary Clinton, who took with her the heads of a host of US corporate giants. Google, Goldman Sachs, General Motors, and Coca-Cola, just a few. Is it not just because Burma wants to make friends with the West, with America, with Europe? They want more money from them. Therefore, we've got to make it look like we're improving our human rights record so that Hillary Clinton can come over and say, hey, look, there's change. You just want to be friends with the West, right?
No, but now, I think the government, the government welcomes the West. Welcomes the West, and then in the previous decades, the American and EU, they imposed sanctions against the regime. That is why they have no choice, no other alternative to get closer to China. But now and to be honest, the new government, they want to be a good friend with the EU and a good friend of the United States.
Myanmar is rich in untapped natural resources, in particular natural gas and gems. If you want to buy cheap jewelry, particularly jade, Myanmar is the place to come. Back at the NLD headquarters, I met up with one of the members of the Central Committee.
Firstly, their relationship is China. But China monopolize and exploits our natural resources.
Don't you think America and Europe will exploit your natural resources as well?
Not so far.
So far, no expectation yet.
With respect, isn't that a bit naive? Why is America and Europe, are they just kinder than China?
Yes, yes, I believe.
Although Western sanctions remain, there are now signs that they could be lifted. As the country opens up to foreign investment, soon some of the biggest companies in the world will bid for contracts worth billions.
They want to promote human rights. Democratic value is to promote human rights. Secondly, they are the national interest. China, it is very dangerous. China, America and Europe is not danger. It is our friend, I think.
Not all in Myanmar, however, are quite so optimistic about Western government motives. Are you looking forward to all this new foreign investment from the Americans and the Europeans?
Yes, that will happen, definitely.
What are they going to do in the country, do you know?
They are taking all their raw materials out of the country. That's simple. They share with us some technology and technical expertise, but mostly they will take things out.
Are you happy about that?
It depends, because I am not a policymaker, and as a student leader, we need to be very careful with the foreign investment. And because I met with the Thai senator, and then Thai senator warned me very seriously about the Thai companies, because Thai companies already destroy Thailand. Now they move into Myanmar, and then they will destroy your land. That's what he said.
And you think the same as the Americans and the Europeans?
The same.
So how are you
more or less the same. So that is why we have to be very careful with the foreign investment, and at the same time, we have to think that if we are ready to accept such kind of investment or not. It's hard. Now the people, manpower. Now we Myanmar people. I think they are not quite ready for the foreign investment.
There is a wide gap between rich and poor in Myanmar. Become a general and you're made for life. Work in the countryside and you'll be poor for life. In this village, people got by as best they could. The bags used as paving stones were donated by an aid organization. They made their own tools and grew their own food. The rubbish and stagnant water made ripe conditions for disease. I asked this woman if anything had changed over the last few years. No, she said, not much around here. Next to the village, we saw a sprawling collection of smart new buildings. We went to investigate. And next door is the country club, where the Burmese elite come to relax and play golf. I'm not much of a golf course connoisseur, but this one looked particularly easy on the eye. With beautifully well-kept lawns and stunning landscaping, this is where the well-heeled brought their guests to impress. The gap between rich and poor here was no more than 50 meters. Back at the village, I wanted to know if they knew what happened in the buildings next door. They said they didn't, but that only rich people were allowed in. I didn't ask them whether they were interested in the game of golf. Aung San Suu Kyi has been seen as a hero around the world. She's just done a tour, especially of many Western countries. Is she a hero?
Yeah, she is a hero, our national leader.
What's so special about her? They're putting her images on mugs outside, pictures all around the office.
I believe, I learn about leadership. I learning about leadership. Our leader have good leadership skillful. So I believe her. I always obey her instruction and her speech. I always listen.
Can she defeat the army? Despite her hero status, Aung San Suu Kyi has remained silent about the current ethnic cleansing of Rohingya people in her country. Hatred towards them is becoming toxic, even from the most unlikely of people. Do you think any humanitarian aid should go to Rohingya people or Bengali people if they need it?
No, and they should not have been there. Yeah.
They shouldn't be in Rakhine.
Yeah.
So
because they are not citizens.
So does that mean they shouldn't be helped, even if they're starving?
Yeah.
These Rohingya men are in no doubt what they need to be safe.
Yeah, if we were citizens, everything is gonna be okay.
When asked whether Rohingyas should be granted citizenship, Aung San Suu Kyi replied, "I don't know." The next election in 2015 seems more important to her than the rights of 800,000 Rohingya living in her country. This used to be very much an underground movement. Every time activists hit the streets, they risked being beaten up or arrested by the police. Now they're holding big conferences in the middle of the capital city. There's microphones, there's air conditioning, they even have these flashy badges just for the press. You've succeeded now. Burma is free, right?
I don't believe Burma is non-free. We are still fight for democracy and human rights. We need to do a lot.
Has Burma changed at all?
I don't think so. Change for them, not for our people. We can speak what we believe. We can write.
Flowers had been prepared for a memorial. It was on this road that 4 students were killed by the military government back in 1988. 24 years later, their lives are still being commemorated. Lives which signify so much more than their premature deaths. Lives which signify the country's fight for freedom. Scenes like this would have been impossible just a couple of years ago. These guys would have been going straight to jail. But as much as Burma has improved its image around the world, the question remains whether the changes are merely as symbolic as what's happening right here. For these activists, their fight for freedom is far from over.